Hi and welcome. I'm Lena. I'm passionate about sharing lesser known true crime stories with the world. Please forgive any imperfection in my English. I'm doing my best and I truly appreciate your support. Now, let's dive into today's case. It was a sunny afternoon on July 21st, 2016, when around 2 p.m. the Czech police received a report about a fight between two women. The incident took place at Nový Smíchov shopping mall in Prague. In addition to a routine patrol, the homicide squad, commonly referred to as the morgue part, was dispatched to the scene, which immediately raised questions for one of the investigators. Why was an elite team of criminal detectives being called to what should have been an ordinary interaction? At the time, Czech media also reported the event as an attack between two women, allegedly preceded by a verbal dispute. But at that moment, no one had any idea what had really happened, or that the situation was completely different from how it first appeared. When the first police unit arrived at the scene, they were met with a shocking image. On the floor of the shopping center lay the lifeless body of a woman. She showed no signs of life, and this despite the efforts of the paramedics who arrived just 4 minutes after the incident was reported. They did everything they could to revive her, but it was too late. Everything pointed to the fact that she had been dead for several minutes. Just a few meters away sat another woman, calm, showing no signs of distress. She didn't try to leave, she didn't scream or cry. She was completely apathetic. She sat barely 10 meters from the body, staring into emptiness, as if no one of it concerned her. She didn't appear aggressive, more like someone out of touch with reality. One of the detectives later stated, "When I saw her, I immediately thought we were dealing with a perpetrator who would likely never stand trial. Not because of lack of evidence, there would be plenty of that, but because of her mental state. She sat there like a body without a soul. She didn't even flinch. Because the incident took place inside a shopping mall, it was clear that the investigators would immediately request security camera footage. And only thanks to that footage did they gain a full picture of what had really happened that day. The video made it clear there had been no fight, no conflict between the women. The victim didn't even notice her attacker. The camera captured a cold, calculated assault. The perpetrator, 33-year-old Michelle Sudků, first slowly approached the home goods section where kitchen knives were freely accessible. She selected one, removed it from its plastic packaging, and then, with a strangely slow step, dragging one foot behind her, walked towards the main aisle. It looked as though she had a clear plan to take someone's life. The footage also clearly shows a moment when another woman walks in from the opposite direction, just seconds before crossing paths with Michelle. She turns into a side aisle, completely by chance and most likely saving her own life. Michelle continues on heads towards the first person she sees. She appeared very unusual. She had an aura that inspired fear, not only because of her appearance, but because there was something deeply unsettling about her presence. One detective later stated that if he had met her outside, he would have crossed to the other side of the road. Michelle had a notably masculine build, a shaved head, wore men's clothing, and walked with a strange gait, dragging one leg behind her. Still, 54-year-old Hannah, a wife and mother of two, didn't notice her, and she had no chance to react. Michelle didn't shout or warn her. She didn't try to draw her attention. She simply approached her in silence to carry out the plan she had come to the mall for. The first stab went straight to the heart, the second to the stomach. The attack was quick, cold-blooded, and fatal. Hannah couldn't be saved. You might assume that Michelle ran or panicked after the attack, but the opposite was true. After the attack, Michelle calmly sat down, off to the side, wiped the blood from her hands onto a pair of children's sweatpants, found it in the store, and waited for police. Meanwhile, store employees tried to help Hannah, who was lying motionless on the floor. Later, they covered her, trying to shield her from the eyes of curious onlookers who were still inside the store. When investigators questioned Michelle shortly after the murder about what she had felt, she responded, "Relief and beauty." Even so, Michelle doesn't believe she's a monster. According to her, what radiates from her is love and goodness. Who was Michelle Sudků? Michelle Sudků was born as a Caroline. She grew up in a two-parent household. Her mother worked as an accountant and her father was a teacher. She also had a younger brother. Although the family appeared normal on the surface, Michelle later described her home as anything but harmonious. In her statements, she said her mother was neurotic and cold and openly favored her brother. She claimed to have had a positive relationship with her father. Despite this, from a very young age, Michelle felt unwanted, unloved, and gradually developed the belief that she simply wasn't good enough. 4. She stated that by the age of 4, she had begun to experience strange sensory perceptions. She heard sounds that weren't real and smelled unusual odors. She said she told her mother, but nothing was done. Around the same time, she began to see herself as a boy, describing herself as a gladiator boy. Michelle recalled looking into the mirror and seeing a boy staring back, not the little girl she was supposed to be. At that time, Michelle also became seriously ill. As a result, she partially lost her hearing and developed a speech disorder. Her feelings of isolation, rejection, and inferiority only deepened. In one of her statements, she said that after an argument with her mother at the age of 8, she killed a dog, engaged in the disturbing act of self-gratification, and consumed some of the dog's organs. She said that whenever someone hurt her, she felt the need to take out all her emotions on someone weaker than herself. Despite this, at the age of 15, Caroline enrolled in a medical school, intending to become a nurse and help people. Because she lived in a dormitory, she had to share space with other girls. That made her even more confused about herself. She felt like a boy who was living among girls, sharing everything, even bathrooms. It didn't help her mental state. Nevertheless, she completed her studies, and after graduation, she began working in children's hospital ward, where she remained for 3 years. During that time, she started a relationship with a married woman who had a husband and a daughter. Despite the unusual setup, the three of them lived together and shared an intimate relationship. Michelle stated that she, her girlfriend, and the husband all shared one bed, while the girlfriend's daughter slept in another room. Around this time, Caroline discovered something that deeply impacted her psychological state. She found out she had been adopted. It likely confirmed her long-held suspicions about why her mother had always seemed distant and why her brother was treated better. She described the discovery as a brutal blow. She felt like her entire life had been a lie. From that moment, she cut off all contact with her adopted family. But Michelle still wanted answers. Who was her real mother? And what had truly happened? She was soon going to find out who her mother was when she decided to knock on the door of her real mother. They met only once. Michelle asked the question that nearly every adopted child wants to ask. Why did you give me away? The answer from her mom was simple. I already had 4 children at home and was raising them alone. So Caroline was given up for adoption. Michelle later said she regretted not having more contact with her biological mother. She claimed that for the first time in her life, she had felt genuine motherly love. She told her biological mother, "Thank you for not killing me when I was born," and added that she forgave her. They never met again. Shortly afterward, Michelle lost her job at the hospital, allegedly because she had become verbally abused towards patients. As her external life began to fall apart, so did her personal one. She broke up with both her girlfriend and the girlfriend's husband. She was left completely alone, without family, without partners, without stability. Eventually, she got a job at the cardiology department. It was there that she first met a trans man who had been hospitalized. This encounter triggered something in her. According to her own words, that was when she fully realized that she too felt like a man. For a while, it even seemed like Michelle found her place. She fell in love again, this time with a trans woman. Although they never became physically intimate, they were relatively happy. They shared common interests, raised British short-haired cats, and went to exhibitions together. But the relationship didn't last. Eventually, they went their separate ways. Michelle realized that each of her partners had left her for a man. That made things clear for her. She enrolled in specialized clinic and began the process of her transitioning. She started spending time with the trans male community and said she felt accepted and understood among them. That strengthened her resolve to go through with the gender transition. However, during hormone therapy, her mental health quickly began to deteriorate. Michelle admitted that she began having intense deviant thoughts and uncontrollable fits of aggression. She even confessed to strangling her cat and wanting to have a sex with it. Eventually, She said the situation as so serious that she voluntarily admitted herself to psychiatric hospital. Doctors who examined her recommended that she stop hormone therapy and started her on medication to suppress testosterone. Her request to continue the transition was denied. This decision left her feeling like a complete failure. After her transition was denied, Michelle fell apart. She turned to alcohol and drugs, completely lost control of her life, and ended up at the rock bottom, without family, without job, and without purpose. At that time, she was living in a hostel where another turning point occurred. One day, after stepping out of the communal shower shared by other residents, Michelle was brutally assaulted and beaten. According to her, that was when she felt a rage that turned into desire for revenge. She said she began deliberately looking for someone weaker, someone on whom she could take out the pain she felt inside. Shortly after that incident, Michelle went to a restaurant where she encountered a group of women celebrating bachelorette party. The atmosphere was joyful and vibrant, with laughter and music in the air. As Michelle watched them, she noticed a young woman who eventually stepped away to the restroom alone. And in that moment, Michelle felt a surge of emotions that led her to choose this unsuspecting victim. When Michelle saw the woman enter the stall, she hid in the neighboring one and waited. As soon as the girl came out, Michelle attacked. According to her, she took off her own t-shirt, threw it over the woman's neck, and began strangling her. The woman fought back and screamed for help, attracting the attention of men who happened to be in the restaurant. People called the police immediately. When police arrived, Michelle was still at the scene. She didn't run, she didn't resist, nor did she show any remorse. The victim chose not to press charges, likely wanting to move on and resume her celebration. Even so, it was a serious incident. After assessing the situation, police decided to take Michelle to a psychiatric hospital, but a critical failure occurred. When police handed Michelle over to doctors, they didn't provide full information about the attack in the restaurant. Allegedly, the hospital staff had no idea that Michelle had physically assaulted the woman with clear intent to cause harm. That this wasn't just a psychological breakdown, but a violent behavior with a potential for serious injury. That lack of communication turned out to be tragic. This happened just 16 days before the murder. On the day she was released from the psychiatric hospital, Michelle had only 3,000 Czech crowns in her pocket, approximately $130. She had one goal: to find a place to stay. She tried, but quickly realized that with such a small amount of money, she couldn't secure any accommodation. And that's when, according to her own words, a plan began to form in her mind. A plan so mad and so cruel that an ordinary person wouldn't even think of it. She wanted to go to prison at any cost that very day, not through theft, robbery, or assault, through murder. Just hours after being released, she became a killer. The act shocked the entire Czech Republic, and murder carried out in a busy shopping mall in Prague. cold-blooded, brutal, and without any warning. During the investigation, it came to light that the police officers who had responded to the previous restaurant attack had seriously failed. They didn't inform the psychiatric facility about Michelle's violent behavior, and this oversight may have directly contributed to the tragedy that followed. For the failure, the officers were sentenced to 18 months in prison, with the sentence suspended. This meant they didn't go to jail as long as they didn't break the law again during the probation period. The family of the murdered woman later received financial compensation in the amount of 8.5 million Czech crowns, approximately $400,000. The court acknowledged that the tragedy could have been prevented and that the failure on the part of the police had a direct impact on what happened. And what happened to Michelle? Court-appointed experts diagnosed Michelle Sudků with several severe psychiatric disorders, including sexual sadism, zoophilia, and necrophilia. They also concluded that she posed a significant danger to society and suffered from a deeply disturbed personality structure. For the murder, Michelle was sentenced to an exceptional punishment, 30 years in prison. She is serving her sentence in high security facility. However, freedom won't await her at the end of that sentence. Based on experts' evaluations, it is practically certain that she will be permanently placed in a secure psychiatric institution where she will likely remain for the rest of her life. Thank you so much for watching and for all your support. Until next time, stay curious and safe.